Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Friday, September 6th, around 10 p.m. Mountain Time 2024. A particularly active aurora season could be just weeks away thanks to the Russell-McPherron effect. We'll have more on that in just a moment. As we are noting, the eruption in Iceland has come to an end, but that might be very short-lived. As the strongest typhoon in a decade hits China's Hawaii, we've got a lot to talk about. Keep calm. It's boom time. A Gulf disturbance will bring rain to Louisiana as new system forms and two others dissipate in the Atlantic. In fact, it looks dismal. All of those systems we were looking at yesterday, gone in an instant. Just one disturbance newly formed here over the Yucatan Peninsula remains, with formation chance 50% through the next week. And what a tweak. Let's take a look real quick at the tropics here. We can see a depression here is going to be moving up and out of the picture. But we want to keep an eye on the Yucatan here as the system moves offshore into the Gulf there of Campeche and redevelops here and actually forms a storm that will make landfall there on Mexico. Tons of rain and then loop around into Texas, the next of Texas. Tons of rain for Louisiana and Texas and the Southeast in the coming days. But look what comes into the picture here. A hurricane pops in here on the 14th or the 15th and starts swirling around. This is like a Cat 2 or 3, very strong storm in these warm waters. And this is just a bizarre model. Look at that guy go. Ho, ho, ho. 100 degrees at midnight. California coast swelters in concerning heat, but not a single paper article or mention of the record cold the last week across the rest of the country. They're focused on a tiny pinpoint region that has got some records. But if we look at the last 7 days, you make the call. Is there more hot records or record cold? Take a look at this. Record cold in Florida, central U.S., all over the Northeast. Those blue dots are quite prolific, aren't they? Sign of the times. Big snows showing up in the models in the coming weeks through mid-September. September to remember. Fall has been early for 75% of the lower 48. That is not on the mainstream's narrative currently, and they're not talking about it, but it soon will bite them in the buttocks as we see some heavy snow moving in here to Alberta, British Columbia, and even parts of Colorado through September. Here's the full forecast. Excessive heat continues in the western U.S. Oh, look at these. What is that, cold up there? Holy macaroni, actually on the map. Excessive heat will continue through this weekend for the southwest U.S. Heat will slowly abate across the northwest through Saturday as upper-level low pressure moves in. Many areas remain under excessive heat warnings and heat advisories. Heavy to excessive rainfall will continue as a threat for flooding Saturday from southern Louisiana to northern Florida. And take a look at this. Frost and freeze advisories on the map. And the media is silent. Look at that. It's still summer, folks. We've got frost and freeze warnings. Holy macaroni. Wisconsin, and say it ain't soda, but it is. The strongest typhoon in a decade hits China's Hawaii. A popular tourist island south of mainland China has been hit by the most powerful typhoon in a decade. That sounds like it's maybe controlled by the sun. Leaving the area facing potentially catastrophic winds and torrential rain, Super Typhoon Yagi slammed into Wenchang City in the northeast of Hainan Island with winds of 138 miles per hour at 1600 local time on Friday, according to state media. Yagi is the strongest to hit Hainan since Ramusun in 2014, which left 46 people dead. China's weather agency said it's the strongest typhoon to make landfall in the autumn as well. Some 400,000 people in Hainan Island were evacuated to safe ground ahead of Yagi's arrival. Trains, boats, and automobiles were suspended, as well as flights, while schools were shut. Yagi, which has doubled in strength after wreaking havoc in northern Philippines earlier in the week, is the second strongest typhoon so far this year. Meteorologists say Yagi may cause catastrophic damage in Hainan and neighboring Guangdong, which is also China's most populous province. Yagi is an extremely dangerous and powerful super typhoon, which could make potentially catastrophic landfall in the Indo-Pacific Tropical Cyclone Warning Center, warned in an advisory on Thursday. The super typhoon is equivalent to a Cat 5 hurricane. Shortly after it made landfall, Hainan saw widespread power outages, local media reported, with 830,000 households affected. Emergency teams consisting of 7,000 people said power was restored to 250,000 by Friday. Now, this gem coming out from the New York Times, this headline just popped up hours ago. Climate change can cause bridges to fall apart like Tinker Toys, according to experts. You know what? I don't know any expert that would ever make a statement like this or, in fact, use the word Tinker Toys in explaining anything. But I do digress. The lamestream media continues to be an embarrassment, and no one pays to read them, which is why there are paywalls, and no one can even read the articles, which are all sharticles, by the way, and propaganda nonetheless. They claim that extreme heat and flooding are accelerating the deterioration of bridges. Well, could it possibly be that the infrastructure in the U.S. is 100 years old and hasn't even been replaced or fixed? I think that might have something to do with it. What say you? Leave a comment below. Is it CO2 and climate change deteriorating bridges, or are they just 100 years old and falling apart? Seismic update. No quakes of note. Normal activity worldwide, actually low level, and that's good news for those that live near faults. Worldwide volcano news, the end of the eruption at Svartsengi. The Iceland Met Office reported that the eruption, which began 2 weeks ago, ceased. Based on model calculations, such a vast amount of lava has not covered the area since the fall of 2023. Due to unfavorable cloud conditions during the eruption, the total area covered by lava flows has not yet been measured. But the interesting tidbit here is, although the eruption has ended, if you watched last night's show, I showed you that the GPS data shows ground inflammation and magma extrusion equalizing, which, well, according to me and others, showed that this eruption would last for a very long time. But because it's ceased and now inflation has occurred, it simply means that the next eruption is happening anytime now. And this is just a lull in activity. More volcanoes to report for the day. Sabancaya to 22,000 feet. Karimsky, 9,000 foot puff. Fuego to 15. Ibu to 9,000. Swanosima to 7,000 feet. White Island continuous uptick with a 4,000 foot puff. Reventador, 14,000 foot puff. Svartsvengi. It's over, Johnny. Fuego to 15. Ibu to 9,000. What do we got? And that wraps up the list with Sabancaya with a 22,000 puff for the day. Hey, hey. Quick jump over to space weather, and you can see the sun is embarrassingly weak at solar max. Can't even produce a C flare with dozens of sunspots peppering the disk. We had some major activity off the backside we reported on yesterday, but all is quiet for the 3-day geomagnetic forecast and nothing to worry about. But in just a few weeks, a particularly active aurora season could be happening. September could be prime time to see vibrant auroras thanks to a quirk in Earth's tilt that leads to more intense geomagnetic activity around the equinoxes. And it's true, that's because of something called the Russell-McPherron effect, which explains why the periods around Earth's two equinoxes in March and September often tend to have the most colorful auroral displays. A paper published in 1973 argued that auroras consistently appeared more regularly during March and September thanks to the magnetic fields of Earth and the solar wind being briefly aligned. And that's coming up very soon. In fact, September 22nd at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. And here's the paper we'll link in its entirety below. Semi-annual variation of geomagnetic activity. This one has been around for quite some time, almost 50 years, so go get it. Now, breaking stories coming out today and major articles. The moon has volcanoes active during the time of dinosaurs, according to a new study. This is coming from the Chang'e 5 discoveries in China. Tiny glass beads suggest the moon has active volcanoes when dinosaurs roamed the Earth. This is due to a dating technique which dated these babies back to about 121 million years ago. The only problem is, and here's the paper, we'll link you below, return samples indicate volcanism on the moon 120 million years ago. Now here's the problem. The paper isn't available yet unless you pay for full access of the article, which is like $69 for the day. Hey. But I did find access to the data, so I took a look at it. And there are hundreds of samples. In fact, maybe even thousands of samples. But let's just look at this one data set here. And as you can see, we're looking at the sample numbers. We've got hundreds of samples here. And all of them, the type here on the left, they all say what? You can all see that. All of these samples, and here's the numbered samples. Here's the grain numbers. They are all impact glass beads. Do you see anything that says volcanic glass beads? Yeah, look, we're going through hundreds, if not thousands of samples. This is just one of the data sets. I could pull up another one. Let me pull up this one. Yeah. Look at this. All of them say impact glass bead. Now, does that mean it's a volcanic eruption, folks? Or does that mean something else? So here we have Apollo volcanic glass coming in just some of the pieces. The majority of all of the grains found are impact glass beads. That means that lots of things are either hitting the moon, a moon boom, or the sun is doing some amazing ejecta and smashing the moon frequently. And maybe they are trying to cover something up because all of the data shows impact glass beads and very little show anything volcanic. Leave a comment below if you have some information to share. Now, ICE is confirming the Aurora, Colorado gang members that many people are saying don't exist are actually in the United States illegally and were released by the Biden administration. And yes, the Tren de Aragua gang is currently taking over buildings in places like Aurora, Colorado, and Chicago. This shouldn't be happening. These are all illegal aliens, and more importantly, these are illegal alien criminals from their own country and gang members. Now, the Biden and Harris administration is more than happy to allow these criminals to enter the U.S. because it's more voters for them. But apparently, Democrats across the country have no idea this is happening, nor do they care. That is how crazy the world is currently. Well, and mostly Democrats live in these shitholes where these gang members are being dumped. So kudos to them. Now, tomorrow, Lee and I are going to have our radio show as normal as Revolution Radio is back online. Studio B, new server location. But we're going to be talking about many interesting papers, including electricity-generated gold nuggets in fracture zones. Amazing discovery there. And we're also going to uncover the fact, did humans live with dinosaurs? All of the accounts of dinosaur footprints with man are frauds. And we'll dive into it and we'll tell you all the data. We're also going to be talking about the most specific dating in the last 10,000 years, using absolute dating of European Neolithic, using the 5259 BC rapid carbon-14 excursion, which is now marked as a Miyake event and locked into tree rings. This allows for absolute dating at archaeological sites far in the past, in fact, 7,259 years ago, and able to get better dating above and below that horizon. We'll also be talking about the reduction in ship tracks, bringing forth a spike in global temperatures over the last several years. So join us on Revolution Radio in Studio B, noon Mountain Time tomorrow. And that's a boom to knowledge. Please share this video. We are shadow banned, and it shows. Our subscriber rate has dropped 90% in the last 5 years. And that's because these multinational corporations, well, our message doesn't fit their narrative that the world is burning up and it's all your fault and you need to use the women's bathroom and be inclusive. We love each and every one of you. Hit the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, and be safe. We'll see you in Crestone in just a week. Holy macaroni.